Hello, all you risk takers and truth seekers. Welcome to Life the Battlefield, where we explore the front lines of life's biggest challenges and victories. Today we have an incredible guest, so join us as Richie Cranny shares his journey from childhood struggles and mental health battles to becoming a resilient advocate and transformative figure in martial arts coaching. Let's dive in. Hello, all of you risk takers, and welcome to the Life the Battlefield, where we explore the front lines of the life's biggest challenges and victories. Let's dive in. Today I have a special guest in my studio, somebody who I'm looking very high, somebody who is not afraid of the life. However, I think the life is afraid of him, so I'm going to introduce you. Richie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Richie, look, I reach you out because I know you're the person who is not afraid of the life. And I know that you fought many battles in your life. However, I want to talk today about mental health from your point of view. Because we witnessing every day, TV is full of commercials.
Yeah.
Public speakers, ambassadors, are you okay? You're doing this one.
Yeah.
But one thing struck me with you. When I saw the post that you are went in, it's a hospital, right? And
Yeah, mental health ward, yeah.
Yeah, Richie, can you introduce our audience? Who is the Richie Cranny, the guy who can kick butt everybody and the life somehow come on top of you?
Yeah, it's a fairly long story, and it starts with my childhood, to be honest. But it's the reason that I got into really sharing the whole experience was because I'm such a vocal advocate of men's health and mental health, regardless, men, women, and it was a big part of my Winter Warrior program. And then when I found myself in hospital, it was, I was ashamed. I didn't want to talk to anyone, and it was about a week in, and that's when I got really angry with myself because everything that I'd always preached about, reaching out and don't be ashamed to say I need help. I wasn't doing it. I was locked in this. Nurses were trying to get in my room and take me to counselling and stuff, and so I thought this really needs. I'm not saying I have a massive audience, but I've got a fairly big following from people that have done my program or I've coached over the years, and many of them have had mental health issues. So I thought it was a way for me to basically, practice what you preach. And really open my heart to those that wanted to listen to my story. And it was very hard making that video in hospital. I was in a really dark place, and especially I got very upset really quickly in the video. And that, as a man, as an alpha, if you like, was another layer of sort of insecurity for me, letting people see the emotional side of myself. And I nearly didn't post it, but I remember just hovering my finger over post on Facebook, and then I went to sleep and I woke up and over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, I had over 400 people message me either privately on DM or text or put it on the post, and it empowered me. All the reasons I loved coaching and all the things I missed about coaching, I suddenly realised it doesn't have to be on the mats.
Yes,
I was able to help these people and coach, and most days I get 2 or 3 messages saying, I've just watched your latest video. Please keep talking. It's helping me. It's helping my son. My son's watching them. So it's it's been very interesting.
Well, Richie, you know, for the all my audience, I'd like to say thank you guys, you know, to all of you, 2 million views currently and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I like to say that it's a true privilege to have you in studio for one simple reason. I'll gladly take advice from you any time of the day and night because you can demonstrate how. Most of people love to talk, but you are preaching now what you're actually experiencing and you are, you know, going through. One thing what the people that don't know is that I met Richie Cranny, I've said 10 years ago. I was on a sort of on a cusp, was, you know, didn't know what they were going to, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say in this because I remember I was with my son in the car and he has a seizure, has an epilepsy, and we drove and we saw commercial Wimp to Warrior, right? And he says, Dad, you love to fight, you know, this and that. I said, like, yeah, Matteo. And I gained a lot of it. I mean, like I'm now fat, but that was it's extra. He says, it's going to be good for you. You know, you help me, I help you. I said, Wimp to Warrior. I said, what is Wimp to Warrior? It doesn't sound good. Anyway, of course, I went, I enrolled, and I regretted for the first very moment when I done the trials. I said, like, if this is the trials.
The trials are killer, yeah.
And then I remember I saw you like at the first week of the training in DY. I remember DY. 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, there's a Richie Cranny. And I said to myself, if somebody can carry the world on their shoulder, is this man. And you designed a program, Wimp to Warrior.
Yep.
And that, can you just guide us what that program was about?
Sure.
Instead of me sharing my suffering,
Yeah,
you share with us your reason why you started
sure.
this.
So it was, you know, the last sort of 20 years has been dictated, if you like, my back injury that I sustained in 2005, and so I've had all these peaks and troughs in my own training, and it's kind of defined which roles that I could do physically, and so I had my first gym, Platinum Extreme. I opened up after I came back. I was 2 years out with my back injury, rehab myself. And I opened this amazing gym. It was by far the most. It was the first gym, MMA gym in Australia that was targeting white collar workers, not just the young tradies that wanted to fight. Yeah. You know, the other gyms around at the time were very spit and sawdust, you know, the mat smelt and stuff. And so people didn't, unless you really wanted to become a fighter, you know, you join Platinum, join like Fitness First or something and hit pads and stuff. So I thought there was an opportunity to bring people in, but the sport wasn't ready for my gym at the time. You know, there was still a lot of stigma around it. One example is when I was trying to get the DA across, it was in McMahon's Point, like very affluent area of North Sydney. And I put my DA application in, and there were a heap of residents that put an objection in. So I had to because their image, they Google MMA, and at the time it was just, there was no professional image of the sport. It was just guys uploading videos and headbutting and stuff. So I understood it. So I had to reapply, and then I went round to all these different houses trying to win them over and stuff. And it took months, and then we went to go to the council office and had to talk to all the councillors, and anyway, eventually got the tick of approval. And even on the day we opened, had this big grand opening. I invited my friends and family along. I was so proud of this gym. If anyone wants to look up, there's still a Facebook page open, Platinum Extreme, and it still would be one of the best gyms around even now. Sort of, I opened it in, I think, 2008. But on the day I opened, in our car park, local residents came along with picket signs and were trying to stop people coming in my gym. Like, not in our, we out, you know, no MMA and all this. And I was like, holy shit, you know, everyone's against this gym. So anyway, I had a real problem getting new people in. It wasn't, it had no street frontage. It was around the back of a road and stuff. So, you know, I had a decent amount of members, but it was just about sort of ticking over and paying the bills.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring new coaches in. I really wanted to put some real effort and make it a really good gym.
Yeah.
So I tried everything. I had members go out with our T-shirts on and running around and hand flies out. Yeah. Anyway, so my back was playing up. So I went to see my acupuncturist, which was in the city. So I had to get a train across to the city from North Sydney and walk. And I remember I could hardly walk to the thing. I was in so much pain. And anyway, he starts sticking these needles in and he's chatting to me. He says, you know, you really need to think about, you know, what you're going to do next, you know, physically on the mats all the time, coaching and stuff. And I had this thing, because martial arts had given me so much as a kid. I started when I was 19 and I could have easily ended up in prison or worse, you know, with some of the people. There's two of my friends from school. One, I think he's still in prison, and I left England 23 years ago, and you know he got, you know, ended up doing something really stupid, and you know I had lots of friends. Yeah. Just there was no sort of avenue because I didn't know at the time, but I had dyslexia and ADHD, and it wasn't sort of diagnosed till I was an adult. Yeah. So when I was in school, you know, I couldn't read. All the letters were mumbled up and jumbled up, and math was a nightmare for me. And for me, I can't retain information that's verbally given to me. Audible skills are terrible for me. I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I need to touch and feel. That's why martial arts was so good for me. Or visual learner. But audible learning for me is, forget it. If someone tells me something on the phone, if I don't write it down, I put the phone down, I go, oh, what did they say? Yeah. That's how. And so if you can imagine being in a classroom where the teacher's just talking to you all the time. And so, you know, they just thought I was this stupid kid. They put me in this class, and I was told I'd never do anything that's after school. And, you know, and even like, I was a big disappointment to my parents, and no one could work out why I wasn't learning. And it wasn't until later on in life, and when I started martial arts, that you know, I went along to this class. It was a friend of mine had a brother that was a black belt, and I boxed through school because I loved it. And you know, I thought I want to get into martial arts and stuff. And I remember the first lesson I was there, you know. And it was like, line up, stand, and it was like, it reminded me of being at school straight away. I was like, oh, God, here we go. But then the coach, you know, just said, right, we're going to do this, and we were off. And, you know, all this, it's like I had all this skill set in my body that I'd never used before. Like in my school, there was no sport, really. You know, we didn't cricket or rugby or anything like that, you know. So it was my first opportunity to do something athletic, and I just thrived in that environment. And I'd go as many times a week as I could. I would go on Saturdays. You know, every grade in I would get an A grade pass. You know, and it was really hard to get, but I got A's all the way up into my black belt. I remember. I had a board. We used to break boards in the seminars and stuff, and I had my own board breaker holder at my house, and I'd have mates come over, and we wouldn't just kick. We'd put our gis on and bow to each other, and then practice our breaking and stuff in a living room.
You're really into this?
I was just so into it because I was happy. It made me feel happy. I didn't feel like this dumb kid, you know. My self-esteem was so low through school. I ended up just not going. I got expelled. Like a couple of months before we finished school. But just because I just didn't go. I'd go and play Space Invader machines or something like that. So got into the martial arts, and I absolutely loved it. And I opened my own club, and then I had my second club in West London, and I had the biggest. So we had our martial art was called Choi Karate at the time, and it was a modern form of Taekwondo. So punches and kicking, etc. No locking movements, very fluid. Really designed for street, but there was no grappling or wrestling back then. And then, so I opened my second school, and then I remember, like the UFC, there was VHS cassettes started to pop up in London about this UFC.
Okay, yeah.
You know, this is the time of, it was UFC 1, 2 and 3. And me and my training partner, Lee, we would watch these videos and we're like, everything's going to the ground. There's no fight that didn't have some sort of emphasis on ground, and we didn't have any. So we started buying wrestling books and grappling books. And then the Gracies came to London because there was no Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the UK at the time. And they wanted to launch it. They'd set up a school in Switzerland, and they were looking for black belts to transition over. Yeah. And, you know, they'd give you go over there and do sort of 6 months and stuff, get your purple belt, and then you can open a school. But so they came over and they did this seminar, and we just stayed with them and grappling. And we're like, this is amazing. We didn't want to become jiu-jitsu instructors. Yeah. We just wanted to take what they had, you know, as martial arts should, evolving, and then add what works in MMA, and then anything didn't work, we just put to the side. Same with wrestling. Yeah. So, you know, it was so exciting in martial arts through this period because it wasn't just learning the same old stuff that had been hundreds of years.
Yes, it's something new. Like
it was modern. It was stuff that I'd been doing door work in London as well, and I knew what worked and I knew what didn't work, and so it was just an amazing time. And I got then we transitioned our style into the name was changed to Pro My MMA, Progressive Martial Arts Initiatives. And we made it into a full MMA system. We were the first in the UK to have an MMA syllabus-based structure to mixed martial arts. So I used to compete. I'd go, if there was any full contact fighting anywhere around the UK, I would go and enter and drive up there on my own and compete and stuff. And I did 6 amateurs. I won 4. I got disqualified for 1 because I accidentally took this guy's knee out. I didn't mean to. He stepped in. But, so I was in this phase of knowledge, and I was just like a sponge. I just wanted to learn as much as I could and then transfer that knowledge to my students. So then ended up moving to Australia. And then that's when I opened my first gym. So the Platinum Extreme gym was open and I was trying to get people in, and then I just couldn't do it. So I was there and I knew what martial arts had done for me personally, you know, and I wanted to give that to other people, but I was so frustrated that I couldn't get them through the door. The hardest thing to get, especially with MMA at the time, is to get someone to walk through the door of my gym because they thought they were just going to get beaten up, and that was not the case. So,
well, it's not the fittest first punching the pads, you know what I mean? That's because people, that's what they think, you know, like, and even today, you know, in hindsight, you know, people love to go, I see in my local gym, you know, everybody loves to go on a punching bag. When I see them without gloves, without protections, like, I say, you must be insane, mate, you know what I mean? Because that's not real, you know what I mean? Punching with your knuckles, you know what I mean? But people do this. So how did you win the hearts and minds? How did you win the people to come into gym to practice?
Well, this is where I came up with the idea. I was back to being on the acupuncturist table, and I was just laying there thinking, I just can't. It's like I had this gift, and to this life, this happy life that I had, and I wanted to give it to other people, and it was so frustrating not being able to get people through the door. So I thought, I'll tell you what I do. People were starting to really get into YouTube and all that back then and stuff. So I thought, what if I make a video and I take one person and I just take someone that you'd never, like a typical white collar worker, you'd look at them and think they'd never do mixed martial arts. Take that person and I'll train them for 6 months and for free, but they have to agree to have an amateur fight at the end if they're ready. I'd never put anyone into a fight that one. So, and there wasn't really amateur MMA back then as well. So it would have to be something that I manufactured. So I thought, that's it. And it literally came in my head. You know, it's not that, see, Wimp to Warrior is some people love it, some people are against it, because they don't want to be, they think calling someone a wimp is a negative thing. But if you look in the dictionary for the English dictionary for the definition of wimp, it doesn't talk about masculinity or anything like that. All it says is afraid to take risks. You know, it's afraid to basically step out your comfort zone and And that's basically what these people were. I wanted to get people from my gym, and for my thought is that people are afraid to come. So that it was a mentality, it was a wimpish mentality of, I'm not going to take the risk of stepping through. And I thought, you know, I can make them warriors. So I was like, I'm going to call it Wimp to Warrior.
Because you see, you translated your life experience into something most of people need. You know, I said, frankly, from my point of view, like, as if I'm listening to my father now, he's saying these things, because I was born then in Yugoslavia, and the martial arts was sort of, you know, that's for the thugs and the criminals, everything else. So I went into boxing, and my father said to me, "You're never gonna be nothing. You know, I mean, you're freaking boxing. I mean, it's all the thugs there, the criminals, the petty criminals." I said, "But I love that punching." I mean, people then realize that martial arts is not just about being thug.
No.
But you done it well. You turned the wimp into the warrior.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest, anyone that trains in martial arts gyms now will tell you that their friends, it's all about the community. It's a tribe, basically, you know, because you're putting yourself out your comfort zone on a daily basis when you go to that gym, because the training is very hard, as you know, but you're doing it with others that are still are struggling as well. And if someone's having a bad day, you bring them up and come on, and you pair up with that person, and vice versa. If you're having a bad day, your teammates, your people in that class will help you, and everyone. It's that old saying, you know, a rising tide lifts all ships, and that's very much the MMA, the martial arts philosophy. You know, no one gets left behind, and people love that. You know, so I thought, I'm going to do this, Wimp to Warrior. So I went back to my gym, and I buzzed into, my back was feeling better, and I was so energized. I buzzed into my office, and a very good friend of mine, Rachel Guy, was one of my strength conditioning coaches at my gym. And I said to Rach, I said, I've got this amazing idea. I'm going to fill the gym up. I'm going to train someone 6 months, blah, blah, blah. I told her the whole thing. I'm going to call it Wimp to Warrior. She's like, amazing. Let's do it. So we were so pumped, and I started writing stuff down, and I thought, I need to get the person first. I need to find someone. So I wrote a post on Facebook saying, one person required to train for 6 months for free in my gym, Platinum Extreme, to have their first amateur MMA fight. Anyway, so I put it out. Rachel shared it. She had a much bigger following me at the time and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, we had 400 people reply that week. Said, I'm in. So then that's when I came up with the idea of tryouts, which still happens. Yeah. I thought, I'll pull all these people in that say, I'll do it, but I need someone I don't care how shit they are when they start, how unco they are. I've got 6 months with them. I'll get them but I need to know that they want it. And what that does is, with the tryouts, is because you get people that come along that are naturally athletic, and everything's kind of landed on their lap in life. You know, they're gifted, and they do well at school, and you know they're captain of the football team, whatever, and they go to the gym, and you know they lift weights, but you know those people tend to be the ones that fade the quickest when you do tryouts.
I agree with you.
You get the athletic guys come in, everyone goes, oh shit, he's going to definitely get through. But 9 times out of 10, they can't. When they get to that point when their body's burning, they've never had that scenario before, because everything's come easy leading up to that point, and they tend to drop out. But the people that stay are the ones that really want it for whatever reason.
Would you agree with me? Like, you know, look, Richie, nobody can bullshit to you, right? You know what I mean? You know, what I like about you, you say the one thing, I will repeat this again, guys. As a kid, you have a very low self-esteem.
Yeah.
But martial arts give you that kinetic way of the learning.
Yes, true. Kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic, apologies.
Yeah, that's okay.
Kinesthetic, not kinetic, kinesthetic, rather than the audio type, you know, you need to touch, you need to feel, and you need to visualize. But yet, it makes you today, like, you know what I mean, to drive, you know, your business and everything else and help others. But in life, we're seeing a lot of people who are this gifted by birth, right? Look shredded easier than anybody else, and look, you know, athletic. But this is the people I saw as well in the military, particularly, and during the war. They were the first one who will give up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will say something. Tryouts, guys, if you didn't try this, you need to try, because I don't say I regret it, but I said to myself, God, man, in my life, I've never been so tired.
Yeah.
I was crawling home. I saw and then I said to myself, this is just a tryouts. What's coming? Anyway, please, tryouts, yeah?
Exactly. And that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to take, and the tryouts, when I designed them, I put all these different exercises together, which I knew were horrible. And we'd say to each other, we're not going to put a time to this. We're just going to see how they go.
Yeah.
When we think they're about to just give up, and we go one more. And that's what we'd always do.
Yeah.
Everyone's tired, and you pull them in, and they say, okay, and they think it's over, and okay, we're going to go one more round, and everyone's like, oh my God. And that mental battle of I've got to do this again, and anyone that went through that, they're the people that we wanted. So, so the tryouts were great fun for us as coaches to really see people step out their comfort zone and push themselves. And there's a lot of people that I'm friends with. Like I had a message overnight from someone that really wanted to give up at tryouts, and I was in their face and pushed them through. And to this date, they still message me and talk to me. Hey, coach, I saw you struggling on Facebook, etc. I'm here for you. You were here for me, and look what I've done now since leaving Winter Warrior. And I tried to walk off the mats, you wouldn't let me, because you kind of see it in someone. And sometimes they just need a little bit of a push. But so that was the tryouts, and then had all these people, and I thought I can't do one person, so I thought I'll do sort of start with 50 and see how I go. So I got a coaching team together and explained what I wanted to do. Kind of worked out that they need strength conditioning more in the first half to make them what I always call bulletproof, because when you start sparring and stuff in the second phase, that's when people get injured,
Yes.
So when you're wrestling hard and stuff. So we need to build their foundation of strength up. So we had a lot of strength conditioning in the first half and basic movement and skills. And also mentally, if you start in week 2, for instance, start allowing people to spar, you're going to lose half of them because mentally they're not ready.
Can I ask you one question now? Just pop up top of my head. When people go to that tryouts and exercising with you and everything else, would you say this is what they behave on a mat will be how they behave in a life?
A big part of it, for sure. Their mentality.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're changing what they're going to become. You look at these people and you go, oh my, I used to get really excited at tryouts because there'd be one or two standouts, and almost always the ones that really struggled. And I used to think to myself, imagine what they're going to be like at finale. I want to be at finale, and I want to hug them when they come out of the cage. And they will be completely different people, and that's what it was. It was such an amazing experience to be involved in. It was addictive. It really was. So we did the first program, and to be honest, I wasn't sure of how they were going to react in finale. It's an unknown because no one's ever trained for 6. Well, it was 22 weeks back then rather than 20, and then fought before. And there was a lot. I received a lot of negative feedback from martial artists and fighters when it first came out. They were saying, it's going to be bad for the sport. You have to earn a fight. They should train at least 2 years. These people don't earn it. And I used to say to them, how many times do you train a week? And they go, I train twice a week, every week for the last 3-4 years, whatever. I said, okay, so if you train 5 times a week, if they're training 5 times a week for 6 months, that's equivalent of your training for 2 years. When you think about the hours we were putting into these, it's equivalent of someone normally training for 2 years. All we're doing is condensing it. But the biggest problem, the biggest hurdle to overcome, because we can get their bodies ready, for me was, are they mentally going to be tough enough to step in the cage and perform, in front of people?
Would you agree with me? Exactly. That's my next question is, if somebody has right to say and has somebody authority and credibility to say, being the warrior it's a big word today. You know, everyone loves to be the leader and the warrior and the Salvation Army, whatever type of guy. But in reality, you know that every time when that cage open, the door on the cage open, and a guy or girl walks in, Richie doesn't hold nobody's hand.
No.
They are everything what they learn. It's up to them.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me?
Absolutely.
And that's where they show everything what they are, how they behave.
Yeah, and as a coach, not just me, but all the coaching people that do the program, it's almost like you're taking your kid to the first day at school. You know,
my God, yeah.
You've had them for this. You've been prepping them, mentally, telling the kids it's going to be okay. You'll be fine, and they're getting upset, and then you just let go of their hand, and they will. That's the kind of feeling you get. Because you build up a huge bond with these people. They tell you their stories. Well, there's lots of people that had attempted suicide or about to have suicide when they saw the program, or sleeping in cars, or split up from their missus, can't get access to their kids, and just general people that just wanted to reset. They're at that age, like you said.
Yes.
They're in their 30s or 40s, and they've done everything for kids. And everything else, and they're like, okay, it's my turn now, and this was a perfect reset for them.
I think it's also, it's like, look, I can't say I never finished. I remember I was having with the Mick, a lot of issues in terms of, he pushed me, and I said, like, I look at exit out, so I lie myself, I can't go anymore this way. I could, you know what I mean? I could. If I really wanted, I'll wake up 2 o'clock in the morning and go training. But I was lazy. I said, like, I can't do it, you know what I mean? But that is me, and I found a very easy way out. Even I like it because everybody accepts you there. Everybody looks you equal. Train a lot. You feel good. But the thing is, today it's about you, Richie. You are the guy, as I say, from the very first moment, even today when I see you, I always think this guy can carry the world on his shoulders. You created something great.
Yeah.
But yet, life catch up with you. So you go to acupuncturist.
Yeah.
He says next phase of your life should not be on a mats.
Yeah. Yeah. So
how you ended up?
Well, I know. Well, it was my way of, okay, if I can't do it anymore, I want to give it to as many people as I can, because and feed off their emotions and stuff, and see, and it's like a parent, or you get to a certain age and you live through the eyes of your kids. Their experiences, when they start driving, and you're excited for them because you know what it's like. And that was very much for me as a coach. I would do less and less of the physical coaching and more walking around the mats, because I knew my back could go at any point. So, but look, the whole Wimp to Warrior thing, it grew and grew. I got some investors in. We filmed the first series. I filmed the first series for YouTube. And that went out, and then that got a lot more traction. So I did the first one at North in Sydney, North Sydney, their club, and that was like 400 people. And for an amateur event, that was like we sold out. And I was like, okay, so the next series I had like 1,000 people register. So I was like, okay, we're just going to do this bigger. So I fell out with the owners of my gym, the Platinum Extreme, because they wanted to move the gym somewhere else. And I'd actually been in that location as a trainer manager, and there'd been gyms in there before, and they'd all failed. It was a really bad position, and it was very expensive. And I was like, do not move the gym there. And they were like, no, they were the business people. And that carries on so much through my life. They were like, you're the guy on the mats. We understand business. Anyway, so I said, well, if you go there, then I will go for a few months, finish the series. It was halfway for the first series, so we had to do first 10 weeks and then the second 10 weeks in the new location. And I said, then I'm done. I'm just going to concentrate on Wimp to Warrior. So that's how it happened. But we had the finale, and then so the second series, I didn't have a gym, so I approached a friend of mine that's got a really good gym in the city. We did the second series there. It went crazy. So I did the finale at Luna Park, and we sold, I think it was 1,800 tickets.
My God.
It was
not bad for the guy who doesn't know the business.
I remember.
Not a bit the guy from the mat. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember standing there. We just put the cage together, and the stadium was all around and stuff, and all the tables were out. We had loads of like VIP tables, and I just had this goosebump. I remember my wife came down. She goes, "Look what you've done! Look what you've done!" And I hadn't ever thought about it. I'm so involved in what's going on. And that's very much like me. I never stop to think what I've done and pat myself on the back. There's always the next thing to worry about.
Yes.
So, but I just stopped for a second and it's like, holy shit, this is amateur MMA in Australia, and we've got nearly 2,000 people coming. How many people are going to want to do MMA when they see this?
Yes.
And that series we filmed again, and that went on Fox Sports 1. And I remember it was in the lead up to the Conor Aldo fight. So it got a bit traction. And so then I got chatting to people overseas. I wanted to, because I knew what it could do and how rewarding it was as a coach. I rang my coach up in London. I said, you have to do my program. So he was like on board. He did it. That was the first one in the UK. And then I spoke to John Kavanagh. And at the time, like, Conor was the guy, and John Kavanagh was there, and John Kavanagh was on Ariel Helwani's show, and he was probably the most famous coach on the planet at the time. And then he's talking to me about my program, and I'm like this when he's talking to me, thinking I was so excited. So that was a real pinch me moment. And then John did the program, and then Ireland, because he's part of SBG, he helped me get a couple more gyms in the UK and stuff. And then so just one other quick pinch me moment, just going off for me. I remember when I was in the UK, when I was really getting into like training all the time and watching UFC, GSP was coming through the ranks. And like, I remember his first early fights, and he was the first real martial artist for me, because he had the karate background, then the wrestling, and you know, he did everything. And we were a style that did everything. Because back then it was like, oh, you do jiu-jitsu, then work on your striking, or you're a striker and just work takedown defense, where we was teaching everything. So GSP was my favorite fighter by far. It was him and Randy Couture from Bekes. So second year into Winter Warrior, I was down in Canberra. We had a really big series there. I was driving back and I got a message from someone in Canada wanting to chat to me. So I'm chatting to away, and then he's the manager of TriStar Gym, which is GSP's gym in Montreal, Canada. Okay. And I'm had him on speakerphone in the car, and I had a couple of friends in the car, and I'm chatting to him. He said, "Yeah, we really love your program. You know, let's chat. Let's get it running at TriStar." And I was like, "Holy shit!" I couldn't believe it. So I arranged a trip. I went over I did a few stops in the US. Went to Vegas, went to Randy's gym just to do some training, and then a few SBG gyms on the way up, Montreal, etc. And I remember walking through the door at TriStar for the very first time, and their series was up and running. I'd been going through the series on phone calls with everyone, but I hadn't visited. I always used to try and visit every single series. And I remember walking through up the stairs at TriStar, and the glass, I remember promos in the day, they'd have the 3 red stars on the glass of the training area. And I remember seeing them, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy. This guy from Hounslow that couldn't read my first book when I was 30, and now my business is going into this gym that I was obsessed with, you know. And so I walk up and I walk into their area, and there's the TriStar logo and the reception area, and next to it, massive banner. It was like 3 meters, maybe 4 meters long, Wimp to Warrior, up in this gym. And I was like, holy shit. At that point, I would have, if everything had kind of, if the world had ended, you know.
That was the moment you were there.
I'd be like.
How do you feel like now? I wanted that people grasp that moment of when the guy, I wrote this, so I go back this one, is self-esteem, like with dyslexic, you know what I mean? You couldn't do the homework, your mom, the letters were flying, as you say.
Yeah.
Mathematics was excruciating pain for you.
Yeah.
you know, the moment you're seeing that your baby, like all your hard work,
Yeah.
everybody obviously told you, don't do martial arts,
Yeah.
right? Suddenly you're seeing on a
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
Wimp to Warrior,
Yeah.
Richie Cranny program is there.
Yeah. I can't describe it.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got imposter syndrome from being a kid and being told you know, you're not going to be anything. It's every sort of point in my journey, I've always thought, you know, shit, someone's going to find out any minute I'm not the person that they think I am.
Yeah.
You know, that's always in my head. But that TriStar moment for me, the experience completely overtook this voice in my head that I always have of, you know, you're here, but it could end any minute because you shouldn't be in this point. You have no qualifications. You know you're reading blah blah blah. So yeah, but I was so happy, and we went out and had dinner with the guys, and still good friends with these guys now. So that was a massive pinch me moment, and I remember getting home and opening a bottle of champagne, and I wrote on the cork TriStar, and I've still got it in my little box at home with all my bits and pieces. But yeah, so this although I couldn't coach, I'd always go and do a day's coaching with the guys. You know, a day's coaching wouldn't be bad. If I did 3 or 4 days in a row, my back would like forget it and it would lock up. And so I knew what I could do and not do. So I had this, my job now with Wimp to Warrior was, I didn't have my own series anymore. When I got to, I think we were series 6 in Sydney at Brookvale. So my job had to transition into a more sort of management role. But I loved it because I just got to go and meet all these people that were doing my program and the coaches that were doing, and the coaches and the gym owners love it because MMA gyms are very hard to monetize, very hard to monetize. You know, it's not like a fitness first model where they have 10,000 members. 5,000, not even 4,000 might turn up regularly. The others have got their
they're
membership.
paying the membership, but they're not coming.
They're not going, but they're telling themselves, I will go back, and it makes them feel better to know they've got gym membership. Gyms aren't like that. You know, if someone doesn't turn up, you're on the phone to them. What's the matter? Why are you not training? Come down. Just sit and watch if you're injured, but come back and be part of the community. So, but you're talking a much smaller percentage of the community that's going to come to your gym. So, but with Wimp to Warrior, we were bringing people into their gym that would never, ever go into that gym without our program.
Yes.
And it was opening up a whole community of people because every person that comes in has got brothers, sisters, cousins, and they're going to see the transition their family member or friend is going to go through in 6 months, probably go to their finale and be in awe at this person and go, I want that. I want that. So it was the perfect marketing tool for gyms. Helping all these people come through, and most of the people would then become members because you can't just stop at that point. You have to get back to that community and train and stuff. But it was just this perfect dream that I was living, you know. But it, you know, as every dream, you have to wake up at some point. And
what was your waking up?
Well, the business. I had like the business partners and investors and stuff, and you know and I remember having a conversation with a couple of the investors right from the very start. Said, if this business ever gets about money, I'm out, I'm gone, because for me this is very personal. I want to give people the best, 100% best experience of their life. And if it means that we don't make as much money because we're bringing in guest coaches or the facilities have got to be at a certain standard or whatever, then, you know, I'm out. And I remember in the early stages being told that, you know, the business needs to get to 200 gyms or 500 gyms. And I'm like, we can't do it. We're not the model.
That's ambitious,
because they were trying to get investors in. I get where they were. They wanted to get investors in, and investors want to see numbers and they want to see turnover. The industry is there because, you know, you look at the UFC, you know, billions of dollars, the revenue, etc. But there's nothing really there in the amateur. So on paper, yes, you can sell it to someone, but from my point of view, in terms of quality control, and because I was very choosy which gyms run the program, you know, I had a lot of gyms asked to do the program, and I just wouldn't allow them because they didn't have an MMA program, so they wouldn't have the coaches, or they didn't have the setup, they didn't have the right mats or walls, etc. So I would go and visit each gym, etc. But they wanted me to be less picky. Suddenly,
okay.
You know, we need more gyms, you know, and the first one was, it went from a 22-week program, which I designed it around. We need to scale it to a 20-week program because we want to get 2 programs in each year, calendar year, because it would look better on paper and the gyms would be happy. Yeah. I'm like, well, I know it's very hard to run this program 6 months. The coaches are exhausted. And then to turn around and go straight into another program, all the marketing. So I pushed back on the 22, but business, you know, they know better, etc. So they turned it 20, and then it was, you know, we need more gyms, and it just it started to there was a bit of a divide starting to happen, and then the final point was probably 3 years ago now. They wanted to rebrand because Wimp to Warrior, the word Wimp, wasn't
diversifying enough.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to break the American market, you know, which every business outside the US does. You know, that's where the money is, that's where the investors are. If we can really break into, and at the time, I think I had the biggest gyms in the US. I had American Kickbox Academy. I had Extreme Couture, Randy Couture's, and I had the SPG gyms. I had the best gyms around, but they wanted all the small gyms and stuff, which I'm not. I like the small gyms anyway because I want them to do well. But if they're not up to it, if they don't have the coaching background for MMA, so it started to get to and from anyway. So then they wanted to change the brand, and I was like. No, I'm not. This is, people have got my logo tattooed on their bodies. People have done the program on their chest, on their arms and stuff. Wear the t-shirts, and I just thought it was. I just hated the thought of it. So they were like, well, if you're not on board, how can you sell it to gyms? And you know, and they were like, there was on a video call with the others, and they were like, you know, you have to leave the business. I was like, wow, okay. All right.
That's a hard pill to swallow,
because it's my business. You know, the first investor that came on that was suddenly a business partner and stuff came in year 3 or 4. You know, all the hard work, you know, was in the first few years of building it up and getting UK and Ireland and US. That was all done when these people come on. But you know, it's, you know, that part of my head was like, well, they know best. They went to Harvard Business School or blah, 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 you know. That imposter syndrome in my head is, I'm just an MMA coach, you know, maybe they do know best. But I didn't want to be part of it. You know, for me, I knew where they were going. They wanted to take the business on a digital pathway. Which again is something that I said from the outset. I said, this program is about gyms, and people on mats. And as soon as they mentioned, you know, we're going to do a digital training program, and I was like, this is not why I started with Warrior. So I had to step down. I had to sign a 3-year non-compete, which only finished April just gone.
This year,
So I've been sitting, not being able to do anything in the space.
That must be a very painful experience because, like, you know, like it's not easy when you are seeing that baby you cherish and you grow. You know what I mean? You try to make it the best. You know what I mean? For these things, money prevails and some other things.
Well, it's so personal to me.
Yes,
and it was for me to build, you know, I literally did everything, like apart from build the program and do the coaching, but I designed all the graphics. I did all the promotional stuff on Facebook. I ran the website. You know, I did everything.
Yes.
And so I knew every angle, and you know, I used to talk to people that when they'd done the program and get their feedback and stuff. So I understood the business and I understood why people did it. And that's something I understand where they came from. I do. They're business people. Their job is for their shareholders, is to get maximum return.
Yeah, that's it.
And so the way to do that is to go digital and get big names in and blah, blah, blah. So from their point of view, as much as I hated what they're doing, I understand why they did it. You know, so I was supposed to get my my main payout for my shares.
Yeah.
2 years after me leaving.
Yeah.
So, and it was all listed to KPIs.
Yeah.
And when I signed the agreement, they weren't rebranding at the time. I wanted to sell my shares down, and I knew once they rebranded that the business, because it was linked to not the digital side of things, it was linked to how many gyms were running successfully. Mm-hmm. And I knew once they rebranded, it was just going to wreck the gyms, because so many of the gyms that we had, they'd have 30, 40 people in their series or whatever. Now they have 5 or 10 because people don't know what the brand is. Yeah. You know, from an SEO point of view, you've run a gym for 10 years and, you know, you're right up there on all the Google searches and everything, and people know the name Winter Warrior. It might not be everyone's favourite name, I don't care, but people remember it. You know,
that's how I know.
Exactly, everyone remembers it. You know, it's.
I still have the uniform. I went to my gym. It's beautiful. It's a grey. You know, like
the shorts. Beautiful. Yeah.
It's a long leggings. You know, I mean, like it's just beautiful. I always wear them with me in gym, and people say to me like, you know, it's nice feeling. It's a good material. It's a red, you know, writing. Yeah. I mean, like it just
the branding. I mean, I'm biased because I did it, but for people to tattoo it on their bodies, you know,
means a lot.
Yeah, it's. So because when I left, when we had sort of 75, maybe 80 gyms running the program, and I had to get to 120. And I was like, no problem. But when I signed the sales agreement, but then the whole, we're going to revamp. And I was like, oh, no, don't change the brand, blah, blah, blah. They did it. And then half the gyms just fell through the door. So 2 years later, it would have been substantial share payout. It was over $1 million, which I was kind of waiting for. Plans on, you know, set my kids up and everything. I got zero. So,
man.
So this is coming up to the whole me going into hospital. So the week I ended up having this breakdown. My mum as well. You know, my mum's got dementia, so I'm her carer. So that's a constant thing, and there's a sadness there every time I see my mum and stuff. So there's that, you know, I'm not working because I was waiting for, just trying to get back into it and stuff. My pain level in my back was bad. My meds weren't working. You know, I've been on opioids for a long time in my back. You know, I've had morphine patches. Then I was trying to come off them because I applied to go in the Navy. Navy turned me down, and the last thing I passed all the tests. And then the doctor had the final say because of my back. Yeah. So all this was happening, and you know, and then this week I chased them and said, like, I had a lawyer involved. You know, I want my share money, blah blah blah. And they were like, read the print, blah blah blah. We don't owe you anything. And I'm like, motherfuckers. Yeah. So there was that, and then I find out that they are going live on the New York Stock Exchange the following week. Yeah. So they went on the New York Stock Exchange, range, I think it was like 10 million US. And the New York Stock Exchange, there were pictures, and it had Train Outer all around all these booths. It was a massive thing, and they were there, and you know, and John Kavanagh, who's still a good friend of mine, but him and Nick Langton, and you know, as soon as I left, they were the founders. They took my name out of the website. For me, as a martial artist and stuff, that stings. You know, sure, rebrand, no problem, but at least pay homage to how this started. You know.
So let me understand this. You've been literally shoved left, right, and center.
Yeah.
But you today sitting opposite to me, and as I say, like, you see, I can't comfort you. I don't
Sure.
have that experience. Like I'm not a doctor. You know, like I have my experiences in my life, and we all do decisions. You know what I mean? And some decisions are very painful, and some the less ones. But your one, you're still sitting here, right? Do you understand, Richie? They're never gonna. They all of these people never gonna be you. Doesn't matter what they do. The greed and money, it's one thing, and making other people suffer, it's not good enough.
No.
Right? Yeah, I mean, and I'm seeing that you're being punched in your face and you're suffering, but you're the martial art expert. You love to fight, so you know, it's a brave face, but
Yeah.
I can sense it, that life was just.
It was very hard. You know, I had real hard time getting through all this, and it was affecting my marriage as well.
Yeah.
You know, my wife would get really frustrated with me because I'd be like, I'm going to fight this. I spoke to a lawyer and all this, and she'd be like, it's killing you inside. You need to just walk away from it. But it's very hard when, you know, again, going back to being a kid, knowing what I achieved, and then having it taken away, the name taken away, but also any reference of me in that business. You know, there were new founders. They were founders, not co-founders, but they were founders of the business. And, you know, the program is described as being created by John Kavanagh now. And it's my program. There's no homage to the history of, and from a martial art point of view, that's terrible. You know, I don't, at the end of the day, the money, you know, money's money. I've never been motivated by money. You know, health is more important, family is more important to me. But just having no mention of me anywhere I think was very low for them. You know, and they were like, the new branding's working, all this. And I was like, it's not working. The gym owners call me up saying, what are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't get involved because I was still under the non-compete at the time. But now they've realised it's, you know, and now the Wimp to Warrior, the W2W is on the website. It's back, you know, and when it says train outer, now it says formally the Wimp to Warrior program. Because
You just need to find, I think you need to find your original drawing of the W2W, and so that's mine, because it's like, I have the original leggings, which is your W2W, and I can associate Wimp to Warrior with the Richie Cranny.
Yeah.
And the Mick, of course, you know, he's
Sure.
a ball breaker, but, you know, like the thing is, that's how I see Wimp to Warrior. I don't see nobody else.
Yeah. Well, part of me was like, I'm glad that they're rebranding, apart from the fact it was going to cost me a lot of money because I knew it wouldn't work. But by rebranding, when I left, it's Wimp to Warrior was always going to be mine. You know, people will always associate them with mine. Whereas if they carried on Wimp to Warrior, eventually, you know, it might fade away and they would become Wimp to Warrior. So that part of me was like, that's okay. But then, you know, when it costs money, I'm like, okay. But if they're just, you know, on the website and stuff like that, when they talk about the history of the program, I'm not in it, you know, and that sucks. So this is all happening in this 1 week. So we're going to get to the hospital stuff. So you're kind of wearing that, and you're trying to, you know, I know that being angry at people is just, it's worthless. You know, you can't. It's not affecting them. It's only affecting you. Yes. So I was trying to, in my mind, just to forget and forgive and look at their point of view. They're businessmen. They're doing it, and I get it. I understand it. I'm not. It's stuff that their journey was different from mine. That's it. Yeah. So they've done. I think they'll do well eventually with the business. But so had found out that the money's not coming, and then my back was just. I hadn't slept for 3 days. So with my back, when it's bad.
When it's good, when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, when I lay down, my legs go numb and I can't feel them at all, and it wakes me up, and then you can't go back to sleep. So leading up to me going into hospital, I had 3 days in a row. I had zero sleep, so I was just like a zombie, you know. And so I was dealing with all this, you know, and then my marriage was really struggling because of all the stuff that was going on, and the fact my wife having to deal with my depression. And then my dog, I'm a massive dog fan. I've always had dogs. And my dog I used to take to the gym with me, and she'd sleep under the desk with me, and she's always with me. She was getting sick, and I was like, oh, Jesus. It's just this complete whirlwind. And I remember I was walking my dogs across the park, and this voice suddenly started coming into my head that, and I'd had one experience of it a few months before. I remember I was making pizzas for my kids, and I was in a dark headspace, and this voice was saying to me, your kids will be better off without you. You've lost everything, blah, blah, blah. You're not the man you used to be. And I remember really battling with this voice in my head. And I remember I started crying when I was making these pizzas, and I didn't want my kids seeming upset. And then it kind of went. And then, but this time I was walking my dogs, and it was like, everything's fucked. My kids loved me having Wimp to Warrior. They loved when I was writing for Men's Fitness magazine. They just, and I associated myself as a dad with that. Their love was through my achievements, and that's what I felt. And when those achievements had been taken away, this voice in my head was, what have you got to give for your kids now? You've got these failures, you've failed, etc. And I won't go into too much, but I was president of IMAF, which was the Australian Federation of Australia, and I took over in 2009. And when I left Wimp to Warrior, I was like, I'm going to put all my time and effort into this, because it was the governing body of the sport in Australia. Yeah. And when I took it over, it had 6 members. Yeah. And at this point, I built the federation. I put a lot of money, my own money into it. Took teams over to the Middle East for the World Championships. We built a team. We were 15th when I took over. We were 4th in the world. I'd introduced all coaching certificates. I'd won 2 awards at the World MMA Awards, one for coaching and one for youth development. And I just absolutely, the things that I loved with Wimp to Warrior was this. It was just pure. Everyone worked for nothing. It was we were all volunteers, and we were helping these kids. And there was an event, something went wrong, nothing to do with me, but someone was going to get in a lot of trouble because we had an ambulance outside, but it was it was at the end of COVID. It was in 2022, and we had our Oceania Championships, and we had athletes come over from New Zealand, from French Polynesia. Anyway, long story short, the president of the federation was over from the UK to see the event, and on the first 2-day event, first day, our ambulance was parked outside. We had a paramedic and a doctor there at the event anyway, but the ambulance was supposed to be parked there all day. It got called away on an emergency, and then someone dislocated an elbow, and then so they're calling up an ambulance. And the president of IMAF came over and said, "What's going on? Where's the ambulance?" I'm like, "It's outside. Why are they calling?" Went outside, the ambulance isn't there. So he was like, "Cancel the event." I'm like, "I can't cancel the event." It was the first ever amateur, globally, the first ever amateur event that was going to be live streamed on UFC Fight Pass. It took me months to get the deal. And it was going to be fantastic. It was going to help us. It was going to help New Zealand, French Polynesia, and it was going to be the first of many. And so I paid for all the production up front out of my own, knowing that it was like 10 grand to film it all. And we were going to get paid 12 grand from Fight Pass. So I thought, once the check comes through, I'll take the 10 grand back, loan it to IMAF, and then the 2 grand stays in. So I didn't have a lot of money at this time. I still haven't been working and stuff. So anyway, the president said, "You have to call the event off." I said, "I can't. There's people come from everywhere." I said, "I'm not doing it." He said, "Then, I'll shut it down." I said, "Okay, look, I run it as a national event. It's not an international event. Just let us do that. And then, there's no responsibility on the International Federation. It's ours." The ambulance eventually came back. But anyway, it created a storm. There was people in the federation that I think didn't like me because I achieved so much in the time I was there. We had over 1,000 members at the time. We had 6 there. I had 60 gyms. I'd run all these we won the awards on the coaching certification. I was working with Sport Australia to get the sport recognised in Australia. You know, we were kicking goals. Anyway, so next couple of days, we run the event. It was perfect. Everyone was like really happy. It was live streamed. But then all this turmoil started. Oh, you know, the International Federation is going to punish you. Okay, no worries, no whatever. So then we had this meeting, and two of the people on the board that I brought in were like, they're going to come over, they're going to ban us for a year, and Mark Goddard's going to come over and basically look at all the official side of things. I'm like, oh shit, you know, this. I'm a true believer as someone coming up from the grassroots that shit does not roll downhill. You know, I could have pointed out who was in charge of the ambulances and stuff, part of the board, but I didn't. I said, okay, I'll take it. I'm the president. It's on me. So I stand down. I stand down to save the federation. And I was heartbroken about it, but I thought, you know, it is what it is.
So the life is actually like, you know, when I'm listening to your events, you know, how it unfold in your life like a snowball.
Yeah.
Like become bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and bigger and bigger. Is that eventually resulted, you say, like, because saying that you're walking your dog and you heard the voices inside your head that your kids are better than without you?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's, well, you know, you become a high achiever, you know, and, you know, you're doubting yourself. I shouldn't really be doing this. You know, when I took over IMAF in Australia, I just had all these ideas of how to grow it and stuff, and we were doing so well. But then when it was threatened, what I built up, and I put 30 grand of my own money in to pay for coaches, to go overseas and pay for uniforms. You know, people don't know that I put this money in. They just feel, oh, the uniforms are here. How did we get those? But I wanted the guys.
Just appeared magically.
Yeah, when I took over, these athletes were going to the World Champions with like a T-shirt. They had full tracksuits, Australia embroidered on it, T-shirts, training gear. I wanted them to be proud and to be part of the team. So all these things. So when it was threatened, I was like, okay, if me stepping down
means
then I'll do that. So I did. And then a week later, I find out that the International Federation were never going to do an investigation. They were never coming over. They were never going to ban us. Mark Goddard was never coming over. He was like, why would I? I'm not getting involved with that. It's the National Federation. They told me all this stuff to make me step down because they come on board and the federation's doing this. You know, we're one of the most watched federations in the world. And they just thought we can take this and it'll be ours.
As I said at the beginning, number two never can be number one. And that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, so they completely stabbed me in the back. And then, so I was like, all right, okay, it is what it is. So then I ring up Fight Pass and say, look, when the money comes in, you know, it'd be split. Thank you. Love working with you guys. And they were like, oh, well, one of your guys has called me up and give different bank details. And we've paid it into their account now. So I'm like, what? So I called them up and they were like, oh, you know, there's no written thing saying that you lent the money to for the production. You know, it's federation money now. So I was like, what the fuck? So they kept my 10 grand. And then the saddest thing about it is they probably used that money to go to the first the worlds that they ran it from, which was my team that I built up. And we got our first gold medal. And obviously this is 2 months later. And then they were claiming that they were there for the first Australian gold medal. And then they changed the brand. They changed it from IMAF to Oz MMA or some really shit logo just so I couldn't sue and go after them. And now within 6 months, nothing there, nothing happened. There's no federation. Their Facebook page has got one post. You know, they're not running any courses. There's no sessions to try and find talent, which is I started talent spotting sessions, go in different parts of Australia and look at these young kids. Nothing, all gone. So the sport getting recognised in Australia, never going to happen now because you need 1,000 members minimum and they've got none. So these are all the things that killed me, you know, and it made me really distrust people so much. The way I was treated at Winter Warrior and then IMAF as well, you know, after achieving so much that people were just...
How did you carry, like, that's a big burden on your shoulders. Like, I mean, hearing your story, when you started in London, to building the Wimp to Warrior, being screwed there, then being screwed as well international Australian
Federation of
Federation.
MMA,
It looks like the people around you wanted to succeed in these positions, but they are not you again. That's some sort of satisfaction, I would say, but that's not the satisfaction because that influenced your mental health.
Yep, massively.
So there's a lot of people who's going to listen this now. How do you carry that burden? How do you deal with that? Well, because it's personal.
It is. It's very personal,
yeah.
And it goes back to my whole self-esteem thing. You kind of all those feelings of imposter syndrome. I knew it. I wasn't supposed to be the president of the Federation of Australia. I wasn't supposed to be. The world's kind of sorted itself out, and I'm back to square one again. So I didn't know at the time, but this was. All these things were over, this is all over like 2 years, were really starting to affect my depression. And my wife was saying to me, I was seeing a counsellor and stuff, and they were talking to me about, I built up these walls because of my imposter syndrome of MMA, and I built these walls so high that, but, the higher you build, when you fall, you crumble. And so now I'm back, I have no walls of protection. I'm back to being the boy again that can't read and stuff like that. So this week, so I'm walking the dogs, and this voice is coming to me, and it's been building up, but my pain level was really bad. My marriage, the whole money thing with Wimp to Warrior, and my dog, and this voice was just back, and it was saying, you didn't listen to us last time. Look now, you've got nothing to offer your family anymore. You're a burden, And so I took my dogs home, and I drove to the pharmacy. I filled a prescription of sleeping tablets, and drove to a car park in Terrigal, with the intention of.
To go sleep forever.
Just go to sleep, because this voice was just non-stop. Your wife is unhappy, she'll be better off without you. She'll get remarried. Your kids will have a better stepdad. He'll be better than you. He won't be a failure. All these things, I was convinced that I knew my kids would be upset, but this voice was saying they will get over it. They're young, they will move on and have a better life if you're not here. And, I'm getting choked thinking about it now.
No, you know what? If there's something is I say to you, always say to people here in the podcast, when I have some discussions, it's very difficult to impress me, but the level of courage you're showing here right now, it's not hard to be coward. It's hard to be the brave, and you're a brave man.
Thank you.
No, seriously, say these things because every alpha male over there on the internet, look at me, I'm the warrior, I'm this and that. I'm seeing the guys on the internet, the punching bags with the muscles, take my program for $29.95. This is reality, Richie. Yeah. This is what a life it is about. That's a life battle. You're going to educate today many people. So how did you come from the car park to back to the life?
Well, so I'm sitting in the car. I've got the tablets, got my bottle of water, and I wanted to leave a message for my kids. I wanted for them to something to keep that would ensure that they never ever thought that what was about to happen was their fault. So I started making this video, and I just broke down. I couldn't do it.
Well, lucky you never sent that video because, guys, this is Richie Cranny. As I say, I saw him 10 years ago. He's the same guy today. He's somebody who can, when you see him, he brings the gravity with him, literally. And I was afraid when first time I saw him. I was like, who is this guy? This is the owner of the Wimp to Warrior. I said, man, this guy is huge. And I was thinking I was the guy, but very easily I was like, that's down. So you never done video, you never sent a video to kids?
No, I couldn't. It was the point of it was the line that I couldn't cross. I couldn't make the video. So I was like...
You have more balls than people there. You see, you have more balls than the people who who screw you over the money.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm saying this to you. I saw the guys in a war, and I said, like, I always saw the one thing what you said at the beginning. I'll take the wimp, I mean average Joe, I turn him into a warrior. And I always say to the people, be careful who you're gonna choose to share the trenches with if you go in a war. And I'm always gonna choose the average Joe because can be turned into a warrior.
Yeah.
So
I'm there, uncontrollable, upset.
Yeah.
And then so I called the suicide helpline in the car, and they put me on hold.
You know, I saw the other day the video was suicide line on a hold.
I was like, holy shit. And they said, you know, if you really go to our website and there's a live chat thing. So I went on the website on my phone and the chat bot comes up and I said, I'm in a really bad position. I need to talk to someone. And then the message comes up.
I need to write this here, please.
Currently, there's no one to reply to your message. Yeah. Please hold. I'm like, holy shit. So then I tried to call a friend of mine who's a nurse and knew about my depression and stuff. It went to aunt's phone and I was like, oh. So then I thought I have to call an ambulance. I thought hardest thing I've ever done is calling the ambulance. I sat there thinking, this if I call the ambulance, everyone's going to know, the people that I love, where I'm at, because I've been hiding it so much. It's basically I'm coming out. I'm coming out. You know, there's no hiding if I make this call to the ambulance. But it was my only option. You know, so I called the ambulance and I said, "Listen, I need help. I'm very close to ending my life and I don't want to. Please can someone," so they said, "The ambulance on the way." They kept me on the phone. The ambulance was 10 minutes away and they kept talking to me, and then 2 cop cars came and they parked in front of me and behind me. Then the ambulance turned up and they carted me off to the hospital, and then they basically said, you know, you need to go into the ward and you need help. So they called my wife. My wife was completely shocked. She was like, what do you mean he's, you know.
So you and your wife, she know that you feel that way?
Well, she knew I was depressed, but, you know, as a man, you know, this is the problem with men. We feel that we have to hide because we're the protectors. You know, I feel very strongly about protecting my family. I have to protect my kids and I have to protect my wife from my demons. So she noticed things, and she knows I was going to counselling and stuff, but she didn't know how dark a hole I was in. Yeah. So she was really shocked at that, and it really, really hit her hard. So then I got transferred into hospital and I was in there for 3 weeks. You get counselling every day, and you're with all these other people that most of the people in there were having mental problems from drug addiction of some sort. There was a lot of druggies in there. Nice people, you know, you get to chat to people and you kind of realise, holy shit, you know, it's not these people there's people out there like me, you know, and so the counselling was really hard at the beginning. I didn't want to go to groups and stuff, but you know, you go in the end, and then you know, my wife came up to see me and the kids and stuff, and then, you know, it's the conversation happens that, you know, the marriage is done, and not, you know, my wife, her job is to protect our kids. She's the mother. She's the mother lion. In her DNA is first and foremost, like me, protect my kids.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, I agree to you. Yeah.
And so, as much as it was hard, you know, she said, "You can't come home until you're better. You know, you can't risk with the kids." So I totally got it. It was devastating because my kids are everything. So so that's when I made that video, and
that's what I noticed. And I said to myself, for Richie Cranny to put the image, I saw the image, the book, and I think Gosford Hospital, right? Yeah. I was sitting there. I said to myself, Richie Cranny in psychiatry, what it's called. I mean, what it's, you know.
Mental health ward.
Health ward. Yeah. So like, it can't be like this is a first April joke. Honestly, I was thinking it's a first April joke. Richie Cranny, and I said to myself, if something break this man, that must be huge. But I didn't know that he will continuously be battered, like, you know what I mean, like a ship on a high seas, you know, the ocean continuously. So 3 weeks later,
I come out. Had to find somewhere to live. A friend of mine did Wimp to Warrior, you know. Had, like I say, so many people reached out. Jake, he messaged me and said, look, I've got a place at Woi Woi Bay. It's a family place. It's empty. You can have it for a month free of charge. And that was such, I mean, it was an amazing offer anyway, but the place itself, it was fairly isolated. You know, it was on the lake, on the water. It had its own jetty, and I love fishing. And the sun sets there, and I found peace, and it gave me an opportunity to really absorb all the information that I got from hospital. You know, I read a couple of good books in hospital and stuff, and I just needed time on my own. As much as I was afraid, you know, and a few of my friends were like, "You shouldn't be on your own," you know. But I didn't. The voices weren't there, you know, and so I had 3 weeks there, and I fished every day. You know, it's kind of like in nature. I'd sit out and outside, have my breakfast, and it gave me the time to gather my thoughts and kind of think about what next. You know, how am I gonna be a good dad remotely? You know, what am I going to do for work, for money? And so I found that sharing my story on Facebook, it almost took me back to the reward I had as coaching, in a different way. Obviously, I'm not on the mats helping people, but I was getting messages like I was when I was running Wimp to Warrior from people saying, "Thank you so much. You're really helping me. Please keep the videos coming." And at the end of each message, it was always, you know, if you need someone to talk to, no, this is my number. But I mean, as a man, and I posted a video the other day about it, is things that I've really learned in this journey over the last few months is that the counselling and everything is okay, but men don't like talking about their feelings with people outside their circle.
Why is that, Richie? Why do you think like, from your experience, like now?
I think pride is a big one.
Because I know I must have something to laugh, because you put some video the other day about female counselors and the male counselors. Let me tell you, I was listening, I was laughing. I said, that's such a good analysis, you know what I mean? Because I heard from the mutual friend of ours, Aaron Huey, who was on a verge to take his life, and he went to the counseling, and they give him the questionnaire, and based on questionnaire, he got the pills, and he said, "Go away." And he says, like, "I just want to talk to somebody." But you know, I'm sorry to laugh but you said you called the suicide prevention hotline, they put you on the hold.
I know.
Go on a website. I mean, what is that bullshit? You know what I mean? We're seeing every day on TV. You know, call the hotlines, everything else. I know that cannot be manned 24/7 for everybody, anybody, but to say, go stay on hold.
I would love to see the percentage of people that call those hotlines male versus female. Because I've had bad days in the last few weeks, but I've never thought I'm going to call a hotline. I would never do it. Why am I going to talk to a complete stranger? I'm not saying it's not for everyone. There's people out there, I'm sure they've helped loads of people. But as a mature man, I don't want to talk to someone that's half my age, that doesn't know my story, and for them to say it's going to be okay. You know, it's not for me.
When you say like it's going to be okay, how did you know it will not be okay? What do you see what is missing in that counseling? Is a more attentive listening, or maybe more pills, or maybe somebody punching your head, something? I think from I can only talk from a man's point of view. Yes. It's having to go over the same stuff over and over again. I personally don't think it works. And you know, you hear about, I'm a believer in the universe and the law of attraction and stuff like that. Yes.
And if you're focusing on something that's been bad in your life, you know, and they want to talk about your childhood stuff and all this. I've talked about it, you know. I don't want to keep revamping it all the time. And there's a psychologist that I went to, Tim, his name is, from the hospital. And the first time I went, it was so uncomfortable because he'd say, you know, he's in his 50s and he's been around the block and stuff. And he'd say, so, you know, tell me what you've been thinking over the last week or whatever, you know, and you'd say something and then he'd just sit there with his eyes closed.
That's what you said in your video. Like, that's like...
Yeah. And I was like, what am I supposed to be talking? Is he... And like 5 minutes, and I felt just so uncomfortable. But, you know, when I asked him about it, it made so much sense from a man's point of view. Yeah. That you don't need to keep talking about it all the time, but you do need to condition yourself to it. You know, it's like anything. If there's a weight that you can't pick up, you build up to it. You condition your muscle over a period of time, and if you do repetition, eventually you'll pick it up, no problem. And I think the same with having, you know, psychological scars, whatever it is, experiences. If you can just sit with it and control your breathing, and it doesn't matter if it upsets you the first 10 times you do it, but eventually you'll stop being upset. Eventually your body will just become sort of used to those feelings and they won't have the same effect on you. And that's what he said, you know, I'm quiet and because I'm letting you tell me what's been bothering you, and then I'm allowing you to sit with it. And he said, once you get comfortable with sitting with it, we're good. And that made so much sense to me. And I think from a man's point of view, we don't want to keep rehashing the same old thing over and over again.
You know what? I'm listening to you, and I just said to myself, it takes a lot of guts to be you. See, I was recently, I saw the psychologist. It's a good friend of mine. Her name is Debbie, Dr. Debbie Coloros. And she says, I said, Debbie, like, seems to me I can't lose the weight. She says to me, I see how much you're training. You eating? I said, that's what I'm eating. She says to me, what do you don't telling me? It's like, no, everything's cool. She's 1,200 calories per day. You should be the 6-pack.
1,200 calories?
Yeah, that's my diet per day. Like, literally, but listen, no, that's a lie. That's where the lie starts. That's where the lie starts. She says to me, okay, so what else you don't doing? I said, like, what you doing and you're telling me? I said, I'm eating during the night. I'm eating sweets, a lot of sweets. And she says to me, okay, but why are you eating so sweet? So anyway, long story short, she told me I have a third brain. I was like, third brain? I was like, you know, some, I don't know, T-Rex brain, like, you know, like some type, you know, protective brain, whatever it is, you know, what they call this,
self-defense mechanism.
Whatever. It's like, you know, that like it's a, you know, third brain is like you're acting like a T-Rex, right? Mm-hmm. So T-Rex sees the snail on the sun. If he sees as a threat, he's going to eat. So what it is, I have this extreme PTSD, which is like a very quiet, I don't show him, but in me, it's always a protective way of doing things. So during the night, I'm not sleeping because I think I'm still in a war. And no, I'm sleeping, but my brain needs some type of energy to keep awake.
Right.
So can react on a danger. There's no danger.
Yeah, fight and flight.
Yeah, that's correct. You know what I mean? And I say, like, you know, like, that cannot be like, you know what I mean? She says, look, I'm the psychologist, not you. If you continuously about 10 o'clock, and she says to me, what time are you going to bed? I said, about 2:30, 3 o'clock. She says, because that where the danger stops. So my brain, and I didn't want to admit this. So I started losing weight because I stopped eating, because I tried to convince myself that there's no danger during the night. Yeah. I always think that some danger exists. Yeah. Right? Anyway, so like I said to myself, how am I going to lose the weight? So like she tried to convince me, give me some type of exercises, you know what I mean? There's no danger outside of the house after 9 o'clock. Because 9 o'clock, it started taking to me. I hit the heart, it's like someone's coming. Yeah. I heard some sound in the house. I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? And I need to deal with those demons, but I didn't want to admit because I lied to everybody. You see, I lied, Richie. Everybody. Because everyone says to Mario, you train like a senior boxing every day. 1,200 calories, you know what I mean? It's like, man. But I lied myself, everybody. Because even my doctor says to us, like, okay, so why don't you lose weight? So done all these tests, you know what I mean? So what I try to say to you today, you have more courage. And I say this, guys, publicly right now. Richie Cranny is a guy who brings the gravity with him. And I said, like, I know him for 10 years now. It's not hard to be the coward. It's hard to be brave. And today, the Richie showed the bravery. It's courageous enough to say, this is my mistakes, you know what I mean? So, like, how you go with the kids now? You know, you said, like, a remote dad, you know what I mean?
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it's amazing. I love seeing my kids. Yeah. But, again, it's this new feeling I have to deal with of you almost go back into a normality when they come and stay with me and we're, like, hanging out and, you know, we're doing whatever we do, you know, just we've got so many quirky things that we do with our sense of humour and stuff. And then they go to school and then they get the bus home. And then I'm in this void again, you know, I'm in this unit that doesn't have any of my furniture from my old place. I've had to start again, you know, buying bits and pieces when I can. But it's not home unless my kids are there. So when my kids aren't there, you know, I kind of feel myself getting sucked into this dark place. Yeah. I don't want to leave the unit. I just stay at home. And it's going to take a big adjustment. You know, this is going to be up and down, you know. But
don't you think, I'll ask you something, don't you think that life maybe wanted you to use this experience right now and pass on generations that they know that they are good enough, that they can survive? Because, as I say, it's not easy to, as you saying things, the words come from your mouth, and you say, I got these sleeping pills and have a bottle of water. I mean, this is my life as well, because don't worry, I was in position as well.
Yeah.
A few times when I said to myself, my life is just not worth it, right? But it's not easy to hear the man, any man, not just you, to say, like, this is me, and I'm going to do one more video for my kids to think that's not their fault, right? I think that's, like, you know, it's more courage in you than the people who take their life, because
that's definitely the easier way. Yeah,
that's
for sure.
the easy way, because you know, I was with my son. We drove to the Macquarie Lighthouse down Vaucluse, right? Anyway, and my son says to me, why is there so many CCTV cameras there, Daddy? You know what I mean? It's at that gap called whatever. So I have no idea. So he was Googling, you know what I mean? And people jumping there.
Yeah.
He said, why are you lying to me? I said, why I need to tell you that people jumping from there? He said, I'm 21 years old. I said, like, well, don't ask me, because I feel, you know, inside of me, it's that I'm uncomfortable talking about this one, because people jump there, and there's a letterbox to leave the... I mean, come on, seriously.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So
it's almost assisting those people.
Yeah, like, you know, I mean, that's what it is. So, Richie, what is your plans now?
I'm passionate about trying to help people with mental health. I really want to do what I can. I've applied for another job, which will be working with youths, troubled youths, which I'm hoping to get. It's a government job, so there's lots of red tape. So if I get that, then that would be great. If not, I'll be looking for something else that I can feel. I need purpose. I really do, and I think that's what every man needs. Their purpose. What is your purpose in life? Not goals. Goals are short term, or you know, but purpose. Your overriding purpose. You know, when I was living at home, it was being a provider and protector of my wife and my kids and stuff. And now I have to. It's not over. In terms of, there's still part of their needs, but I need to adjust and reassess and set my new purpose. So I'm still working on it, but I know once I get my purpose done, it's not something I can rush, because I don't want to have to change it, but it will come to me. It will come to me. I know if I get this job, then that will become my purpose. If I don't, then there's a bit of a delay. But I want to be vocal about my background and my mental health history and my battles, because I don't care what anyone says. If you go through mental health issues, there's no cure. It's about managing. You know, it's like any long-term illness. You're not going to just suddenly be great and be happy. You know, there's things you have to do to maintain your mental health. And if you don't, then you're going to go back down under. And it's learning what those skills are and those needs for yourself. And that's a journey. That's a journey for everyone. And I'm still learning. It's helped me coming out and being vocal about it. But that's what I want to do. I want to help lower the suicide rate, especially with young adult men in Australia. I've got 2 sons that I never want them to be in a position where they feel that they can't talk about stuff. We need to make it okay. You know, the whole "are you okay" thing is, I get it, I understand it. I said it in the video.
I'm laughing this,
but if you go up to some guy and say, "Are you okay?" He's going to go, "Yeah, I'm okay. Cool, I'm okay." It's not going to provoke any sort of reaction. His walls are going to be up. You know, what you need to do is just sit down with someone and spend time with them. If they're lonely, then fill that gap in their day. And if they start talking about it, but "are you okay?" It's, you know, it's a gimmick and stuff. But guys are always going to just respond, "I'm okay. Thanks for asking." If someone asks me in my darkest hour, I'm not going to share with some stranger, "Are you okay?" or a friend even. I'm gonna try and battle through it. So we need to understand ourselves and how we can help ourselves, because at the end of the day, men, ourself is our greatest, for a better term, medicine, if you like. You know, if we can understand the way we work and the way our brain works and what we need to do to stay in a healthy space, that's the best thing. But we have to put our hands up first and say that we need help. And that's the biggest hurdle, I think.
Yeah, I think, like, before we wind up, because I just want to remind me of the words of Winston Churchill, 1940, in the darkest hour. He said, "I have nothing to offer except the blood, tears, and toil."
Yes.
And that's what you're saying right now.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
before I make the prophecy, you reminded me, you know, as a kid, I remember Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, we will go in cinema. You know, all the boys around me who's been bullied, whatever it is, we got to watch Hong Kong masterpieces with Bruce Lee, right? And I remember we come back from cinema, we will like fight, you know, we'll do all this, you know, bullshit, you know what I mean? Like fights, you know, and we felt very well. But I want to make a prophecy. I truly believe that there is a reason behind what's happened to you.
Yeah.
And I truly have a prophecy that you're going to help hundreds of the men started this year. Yeah. Richie, thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put a comment section below how you can reach Richie and how you can talk to Richie and how he can make yourself better. So, Richie, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.